Hello, everyone. I'm glad to see so many folks here to learn about our awards, some of our fellowships to do graduate study in the UK. My name is Tina Gillibrand. I'm the director of the Office of Undergraduate Research and Fellowship Mentoring. I'm so happy to have you all here. I hope that if you're interested in this award or any one of our other awards, that you engage with our office. And I don't know, Natalie, do we have slides?
We do. It's not going full screen, so y'all will just see my
I want to introduce you to our team. So we're here to talk about the UK awards. These are awards that you can apply to do your graduate study in the United Kingdom. I did my graduate study in the United Kingdom, so it is a great place to get your graduate degree. This is who we are. So there's me, right? We also have Chelsea Walls, our assistant director, who I think is here on the call as well. If she wants to unmute and wave. Hello, Chelsea.
Hello, everyone.
And then we have Kaylee Taylor, our program assistant. If ever you are engaging with our office, which I hope all of you will at some point, you will be in contact with Kaylee because she runs everything. Uh-oh, what happened?
It's going to come right back. I didn't like it for a second.
Here we go. Sorry about this technical stuff always. There we are. And then do you want to start
It does not want me to present it full screen. All right, Tinika's going to keep telling you about our office. I'm going to download it.
Keep going like this, as long as everyone can see it. Yeah, so, and then we have, of course, Natalie, who's here today to talk about the UK awards. And we also have another graduate assistant, Sam Lee, who works a lot with our research side of the house. And then there we go. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to sort of give an introduction to who we are and what our office does. We help students, undergraduate students, connect with research opportunities on campus. And we have a lot of resources for that. And then we also help anyone applying to competitive fellowships or scholarships, because these are opportunities where you get money to do something cool like study in the UK, and lots of people want to do that. So in order to be competitive for these awards, it's really helpful to get as many eyes and perspectives and thoughts on it as possible. And our office does it all the time, reads applications, talks through. Sometimes people just want to chat, like, I think I want to do this, but I am not really sure if it's the right path for me. Happy to have those general conversations, all the way up into doing mock interviews if you have to do an interview for an award. So we're here to help, and we want to help. So you can reach out to us. I think at the end of this presentation, there'll be some contact information about how you can get in contact with us, but we're on Starfish. You can find us there. So if you want to make a general appointment or an appointment, you decide after this that you're going to apply for a Gates Cambridge, that's great. You can go ahead and make an appointment with any one of us in Starfish, and we're happy to help with that conversation and help you through the process. So with that, I'll hand it over to Natalie to go through these awards.
Thanks so much, Tinika. So you all know we're talking about 3 awards today, which all can fully fund graduate study at various places in the United Kingdom. So that's the Rhodes Award, which is only for study at Oxford University, the Marshall Award, which is for any university in the United Kingdom, and the Gates Cambridge Award, which is only for study at Cambridge University. We'll talk about each of those 3 awards. We'll also discuss general application considerations, things that you might be thinking about right now, considering what to do after graduation, or maybe in the next couple of years, if you're working out your few-year plan after graduation. We'll walk through the campus evaluation process because there is an internal nomination process for the Rhodes and the Marshall Award, and we'll have time for questions at the end. I will say this is a very information heavy presentation. There's going to be a lot of me talking. And so at any point, if you do have a question, please just drop it in the chat and we can pause and address your question then, just to break up the information that I'll be presenting over the next, 30, 40 minutes or so. So before we get into the individual awards, just a brief note that graduate school in the United Kingdom is a little bit different than how grad school in the United States functions. So especially those of you who are seniors or fourth years and thinking about grad school, you might want to consider that there are some differences. So in the American system, you can kind of see it as more of a kind of hand-holding or mentorship experience in grad school versus what you would get in the United Kingdom, where there's a pretty large emphasis on training, on mentorship, the relationships that you build with your advisor, your supervisor. And graduate degrees also generally take longer in the United States, but are a bit broader in scope, less narrow or specific on whatever your research interests are. And so as a general rule, we can say that masters take about 2 years in the US and PhDs can take 4 or more years. I'm sitting in the 5th year of my PhD right now, so I can tell you that that is definitely accurate. Versus in the United Kingdom, the general reputation is that you are more independent as a scholar and as a researcher than you would be in a similar program in the United States. And it also takes less time to earn a degree on average, where master's degrees take 1 or 2 years to complete, PhDs generally 3 years. And there's also different types of master's degrees versus in the US, you pretty much just have an MA degree or maybe a Master of Science. There is the difference between research masters and taught masters awards in the United Kingdom. Obviously, these vary by field. And if you have more questions about this, this is something we'd love to work through you or work with you through advising or through mentoring appointments. Obviously, this is a general rule. There are always differences, but something to think about as you're considering grad school in the United Kingdom. The first award we're going to talk about is the Rhodes Scholarship. This is the one that you've probably heard about the most. It was described to me when I was an undergrad as a golden ticket to anything you would want to do. If that's in academia, if that's research and industry, if that's public service or like federal work, anything you'd want to do, a Rhodes Scholarship can really help to take you there. It is one of the oldest and often called the world's most prestigious fellowship. Over 100 years ago, it was founded by the Rhodes Trust in 1903. And it provides full financial support to pursue a graduate degree at the University of Oxford in almost any program that they offer. We've linked some additional information here, including a video and their websites, and we can make these slides available after if you'd like to explore more about it from kind of their promotional side. There are 32 scholarships that are assigned to the United States annually. So throughout the whole country, only 32 awards are granted, and they're divvied up by regional districts. So you can either apply via your school location, so that'd be Pennsylvania region, or your home location, wherever you are from. The selection criteria that the Rhodes looks for, we'll talk more specifics in a minute, but in general, they are looking for students with outstanding scholarly achievements, with strong character, a commitment to others and to the common good, and students who have a potential for leadership in their field of study. They're looking for people who have a vision of how they want to change their discipline, their field, or the world at large. To be eligible, you do have to be a US citizen or a permanent resident, though there are slots that are specific for international students. Though you do have, the application process is a little different. You apply through your country's Rhodes organization instead of through the United States competition. And this is open to seniors, recent alumni, or graduate students, as long as you're not older than 24 years of age at the time of application. So you'll remember that scholarly achievement was that first kind of element of what the Rhodes Scholarship is looking for. So in general, we're looking for students with a GPA of 3.7 or above to be considered to apply for the Rhodes. And this here comes from the Rhodes the Rhodes Trust itself. Like I said, academic excellence. Second, they're looking for students with energy to use your talents to the full. And that can be demonstrated by mastery in a whole host of subjects. Back in the day, the Rhodes Scholarship used to look for athletes only. And so you might kind of have that conception that you have to be really good at a sport. That's no longer the case. They broadened that selection criteria, and instead they're looking for students who have excellence in whatever your area or passion is. They define character as truth, courage, devotion to duty, sympathy for and protection of the weak, kindliness, unselfishness, and fellowship. A lot of big terms there, but in general, force of character. Students who care a lot about being good people and good citizens of the world. So that's that moral force of character. They're looking for students with an instinct to lead and who care about making the world a better place in whatever field that is. So the application process for the Rhodes, the national deadline, if you look on their website, you'll see it's usually about early October. However, as I mentioned, there is an internal application process. We'll go over those dates more specifically in a few minutes, but the deadlines for that, May is the priority deadline, August is the final deadline. And so if you are looking to apply through Penn State, you would really need to make sure that you meet either that May or that August deadline of whatever the year you'd want to apply. And so if you are a graduating senior or going to be a graduating senior, you would apply either May of your junior year, your third year, or August of your senior year. If you're an alumni or a first or second year in graduate school, of course, you would apply during the year right before you would want to take your Rhodes Scholarship year. The application process is pretty cohesive. It is a really comprehensive, pretty intensive application. The components that they ask for are a personal statement, 5 to 8 recommendation letters. This is, of all the awards that we work with in our office, this is definitely the one that asks for the most recommendation letters. Proof of citizenship, transcripts, a list of activities. So that's similar to what you would list on a resume or a CV. And an endorsement letter from the president's office. That's something that our office helps facilitate. That's a reason why you need to go through the university's endorsement process. You can't apply kind of just on your own independently because it requires this president's endorsement letter. Here's an example of what current Rhodes scholars have accomplished, the type of student that they're looking for. I will shout out here that Penn State, for at least the first time in recent memory, maybe ever, we actually had 2 finalists for the Rhodes Scholarship this year and are so proud of the students that achieved that. And it's a testament to the ways that Penn State students are always doing really cool, impactful work. And that is the kind of work that is valued by the Rhodes Trust. So here is a student from the University of Connecticut, not Penn State, but you can see kind of the very comprehensive strengths of these students who are selected as Rhodes Scholars. So this student, major in environmental studies, minor in global studies and in urban and community studies, has a perfect academic record, so 4.0 GPA. And the students have oftentimes already had impressive fellowships or scholarship opportunities that they've earned on their CV. So this student was a Truman Scholar, a Udall Scholar, a UNUSA Foundation Global Health Fellow, a Kennedy Lugar Youth Exchange Scholar. They are a leader in their campus activities. So in this case, they founded and led programs on food insecurity as the Vice President of Student Government. And they're also unique students. It's not always legacy students who come from Ivy League schools, whose grandparents were Rhodes Scholars. That's not always what they're looking for. So here, this is a student from UConn who is a first-generation American of Kenyan descent and the first Rhodes Scholar ever from the University of Connecticut. Their plan was to do a master's degree in nature, society, environmental governance, and a second master's degree in evidence-based social intervention and policy evaluation. Recall that because master's degrees in the UK usually only take about a year, it's really common for Rhodes Scholars to be able to earn 2 master's degrees during their time at Oxford, or almost an entire PhD with their funding. So that is the Rhodes Scholarship. I'll pause here. Are there any questions specific to the Rhodes? You can put them in the chat, or if you feel comfortable to just raise your digital hand or to ask a question like that. Okay, seeing no questions right now, we'll move on to the Marshall Scholarship. Might have spoken too soon. I see one in the chat. Someone sent a private message asking if the GPA is weighted. I'm not quite sure what that means in terms of Penn State, that as far as I know, everything is on a 4.0 scale, but you can submit your GPA out of whatever the GPA scale is. And so if you are working on a different type of GPA scale, when you apply either to our office, or I guess first to our office, we would take that into account. So the Marshall Scholarship is the second opportunity that we're discussing today. And this is the one that funds full graduate study for many universities in the United Kingdom, almost all of them. There's a full list provided at the Marshall Scholarship website. So if you're curious, you can go there to see exactly which institutions would be eligible for Marshall Scholarship applications or not. And this was established by an act of parliament in 1953 in the United Kingdom. There are up to 50 scholarships awarded annually throughout the United States, and these are based on three criteria: academic merit, similar to Rhodes; leadership potential, similar to Rhodes. The difference is Marshall also looks for ambassadorial potential, and that's the, however you want to define it, but it is the character or the qualities that let you be not only a good representative of the United States as you're studying abroad in the United Kingdom, but also to kind of go the other direction in that, to be a good representative of the United Kingdom when you return back to the United States for the next stage of your studies or your career, whatever that step might be. For the Marshall, you'll apply within the region of your school or home address. So similar to Rhodes, you can kind of make a strategic decision which region you'd apply to. And that's something that the office can help figure out. This is an insane graphic. I know this. Don't worry too much about it right now. But here are all the different routes that you could take with a Marshall. And so because the graduate timelines are different in the United Kingdom, there are a few more options than you might have in the United States. And so there's the option for Marshall. You can apply for simply a one-year scholarship, and that will gain you a 12-month master's degree, either taught or a research degree. And you can choose to end the scholarship experience there. You can also apply for a 2-year scholarship where you can achieve and earn 2 separate master's degrees or 1 2-year master's degree in the event that the program you're applying for has a 2-year program. And there's no extension for that. If you want to apply, you get 2 years of funding, you have 2 years of funding. There's also the option to extend your scholarship for a possible 3rd year, depending on what your plan would be. And so that is either to start your PhD in the first year, knowing it'll take about 3 years to complete, or you go, you do your master's degrees, you love it, you want to continue that work. And so you can get a 3rd year of funding for a majority of the partnership universities. It is not guaranteed, so not necessarily promised even if you are a Marshall Scholar to get that 3rd year of funding, but it is an option. And if you have a real reason and a justification why you'd want to stay for a 3rd year, it's not uncommon to earn that 3rd year of funding. The other route that you could take instead of like 2 years of master's study is just to do 1 year of master's study. And then when you're done with that, be like, I am ready to stay, do my PhD, and you could start your PhD in that 2nd year. And so you could get potentially a 3rd year of funding, which would be your 2nd year of a PhD. However, you don't get 4 years of funding. It's really only between 1 and 3 years. And so if you're planning on doing a master's and a PhD kind of to completion, you would need to find funding for an outside source for that 4th year of study in the UK. In terms of eligibility, you do have to be a US citizen to apply. And you can be a senior, recent alumni, or a graduate student. This date, I apologize, is not accurate. The 2020 date is not accurate, but you do have to be a recent graduate. And so anyone who is a junior now or a senior now, if you're a recent graduate, you would be eligible to apply in the upcoming cycle. And because academic excellence is something that they're looking for, they are looking for students with a GPA of also 3.7 or above. Similar to Rhodes, there is the internal nomination process first that you have to pass before going on to the national application process. There's not a way to apply for the Marshall independently without going through the campus endorsement process. Again, we have these two deadlines, which I'll tell you a little bit more about the difference between these two deadlines. But if you were planning your upcoming semester or your next year when you need to apply for things, these are the deadlines to keep in mind. Now, once you go through the campus evaluation process, and if you are nominated as a Penn State nominee for the Marshall Scholarship, what you can expect to have to complete before the national deadline are also a set of essays, and those include the personal statement, a proposed academic program statement, so that's more like a cover letter about the specific program you'd like to attend and why, a leadership statement that explains your philosophy on leadership, key experiences you've had that show your leadership experience, and a statement of your ambassadorial potential. Because remember, that is a key criteria of why the Marshall Scholarship existed in that Act of Parliament, to produce students who have that ambassadorial potential between the United States and the United Kingdom. You need 4 recommendation letters for the Marshall. You'll also need basic information, your official transcripts, and that institutional endorsement letter. And those are all things that the office can assist with. The national deadline for the Marshall is always in late September, so it's a similar timeline to the Rhodes Scholarship, which has that early October deadline. And it's not uncommon for students at Penn State to apply for both. You are eligible to apply for both the Marshall and the Rhodes if you have multiple programs you'd like to apply to, or you feel like you're a good fit for both of them. That's absolutely something that we can work with you on. Here is one of our recent Marshall scholars, Ryan Henrique, who says that it's good to apply because it provides great practice in the art of applying. Going through these applications, which are really robust, really comprehensive, forces you to get your ideas down on paper, and you can learn to write about yourself, which is a skill that you'll need. Ryan also says that you can do things to bolster your application process, and those are important pieces for building a strong grad school application. And so even if you're not successful with the Marshall or the Rhodes, going through this application process, working with your mentors in the office on building that application package is going to be useful for you in whatever your next step is, whether that's applying to graduate school, applying to other fellowships, etc. And of course, when living abroad, you do need to be aware of cultural differences, and they're looking for students not necessarily who have already gone abroad and had to represent the United States this way, but students who can display that they're the type of student who would be successful abroad, who can navigate differences with patience, with kindness, independently, and with an eye towards creating common solutions or mutual understanding, even throughout cultural differences. So the evaluation process that I mentioned, you need a campus endorsement for Rhodes and Marshall to apply. The priority deadline for this year's upcoming cycle is May 10th, 2024, and that final deadline is August 15th, 2024. You do not need to meet both deadlines. If you are like, I know I want to apply and I can get my stuff in by May 10th, then that's great. You're set, and we can evaluate your materials and let you know whether or not you'll be nominated. The benefit to applying with this May 10th deadline is that we can promise you one-on-one mentorship with a faculty mentor and our office throughout that entire summer, where you can meet as often as you'd like with your faculty mentor or with office staff to go through as many copies and drafts of your essays as you would like, to make sure that you are as strong an applicant as you can be by the time that national deadline rolls around, especially because these applications are so comprehensive. You really want to spend time making sure that the overall package is as strong as it can be. And that means looking at each essay, each short answer that you write, each recommendation letter, to make sure that they're all presenting a cohesive and coherent picture of who you are to the nomination committees. To be considered for the campus endorsement process, you'll want to send an email to yourfm@psu.edu, and we can get you access to those early materials that you would need to submit to be considered for nomination. So that includes the award application itself, so all the basic information that Rhodes and Marshall will ask you for, 3 letters of recommendation, additional writers if applicable, so that's for the Rhodes. And we'll also ask for your resume or CV and your unofficial transcript. So be aware that those award applications also include those essays. And so we will ask for your first draft of those essays that you would need to write for Marshall or for Rhodes by that campus deadline. And so those are not final copies. We'll continue to work with you on them throughout the summer, but that's what we need in order to have our faculty committee make an assessment about whether or not they will go forward in nominating you as one of Penn State's finalists. I see a question in the chat about the Gates Cambridge, and we'll get to that in just a couple minutes. So any other questions about the Rhodes or the Marshall or the campus endorsement process before we move on to the Gates Cambridge Scholarship? Okay, not seeing any questions. We'll move on to the Gates Cambridge. The Gates Cambridge Scholarship provides financial support to pursue grad study, either a master's or a PhD at the University of Cambridge. So just like Rhodes is limited to only programs at Oxford, this is limited to only programs at Cambridge. It was established about 20 years ago by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And the purpose behind this fellowship was to build a global network of future leaders committed to improving the lives of others. Similar to Rhodes and Marshall, this is a pretty competitive opportunity with only 25 scholarships awarded to US citizens and 55 scholarships to non-US citizens annually. They look for academic excellence, leadership potential, and commitment to improving the lives of others. So hopefully by now you're seeing a lot of overlap in what these types of opportunities are looking for in students. They're looking for students with great GPAs, students who want to be leaders, and students who want to help the world. And they're pretty broad in how they define those attributes, but hopefully you can understand why we do encourage you to apply for multiple of these opportunities. If you're going to go through all of the effort of putting together a competitive application and you're nominated for one of these awards, it is pretty likely that you would also be competitive for another one, whether that's the Marshall, the Rhodes, or the Gates Cambridge. The Gates Cambridge is eligible to US citizens or open to US citizens and international students. So that's a difference between the Rhodes, kind of the national process, and the Marshall. And the deadlines do vary for both domestic and international students. So do be aware of that. This is open to seniors, recent alumni, and grad students, just like the others are. And they're looking for a minimum of a 3.8 GPA. So this is another opportunity where they're looking for really academically excellent students to be able to apply. While you can apply for a master's or a PhD, and students are successful with both, 2/3 of the awards from the Gates Cambridge do go to PhD students. And so if you're considering a master's or a PhD and your mentors or your academic advisors think you're ready to apply for a PhD, or maybe you're already in a master's program and you're ready for that doctoral level study, then the Gates Cambridge does kind of prioritize PhD applications. So the application itself, you do not need campus endorsement to apply for Gates Cambridge. That said, we highly, highly encourage you to make use of the office resources if you'd like to apply to the Gates Cambridge. Because this is so similar to awards like the Rhodes and the Marshall, we in the office have a lot of experience mentoring students to be successful in these applications. And we want you to get the awards. We want you to get as many of these things as possible. And so if you're interested in applying for the Gates Cambridge, know that though you don't have to go through the office or through Penn State, we highly encourage it because these applications are so comprehensive. They're weird. You probably haven't had to write similar statements or like the essays that they're asking before. And so we love to work with you regardless of, whether or not it's necessary in this case. So the national application deadline is in fall of 2024 for the US students. And to apply, you need a personal statement. That's about a 500-word, a little bit less than 2 pages personal statement. You need a research proposal only if you're applying to the PhD. You do not need a research proposal if you're applying to a master's program. And you need 2 academic letters of recommendation. So those are from professors or research advisors, individuals who can speak to your academic and research ability. So there's 2 different deadlines for US students. If you're applying for those 25 awards that they send out, the deadline is October 11th, 2024. If you're an international student, the deadline is December 5th or 2024 or January 4th, depending on the program that you're applying for at Cambridge. So if you do want to work with our office on your application, we just ask that you kind of reach out to us, send in your materials before 2 weeks prior to the national deadline, because up at that point, there's not much that you or we can do within those last 2 weeks before a deadline. So reach out as early as you're interested, even if it's just an idea or a dream at this point. Go ahead and schedule a meeting with any of our office staff through Starfish, and we can talk through if this is the right opportunity. And if it is, we can put together a plan of attack for how to handle this, really intense application. So here's more information for the timeline, and this is for the US citizens who are in residence. And so you can see a little bit, the applications aren't even open. They don't open until September 4th. And then you have about a month to actually complete all the information and to submit it. And then the University of Cambridge themselves will kind of go through the first line of review, whatever program that you end up applying to. And then they'll let you know by December 11th, a Monday, what the application outcome is. And there will be a kind of second round of review process later in January. For international students, and this also includes United States students who are not in residence. So if you know that you are going to be abroad while you're applying, maybe that's because you're doing a Fulbright scholarship or you are studying abroad, kind of long-term, not just a short-term study abroad, or if you hold dual citizenship and you are not in the United States and residence during the time of application, you'll apply with the international student group. And so you will look at the deadlines for international students if you're a US citizen not in residence in the US. The application opens at the same time, but you have a few more months to work on your application, and that deadline isn't until December 5th or January 4th, again, depending on the course that you're selecting. And you will know a little bit later than the US citizens whether or not you're moving forward with the selection process. So we'll pause here because the next kind of phase of information I'll give you is all general information. They're not tied to the specific opportunities. So any questions you all have about specifics for the Rhodes, the Marshall, or the Gates Cambridge, now would be a great time to ask it. Okay, well, like I said, we'll have time for questions at the end. And I'm also happy, and I'm sure Tinika is, to hang out for a few minutes after the presentation if you have just like one-on-one question that you'd like to run by us. So for the next section, we're going to be going over general application tips. So regardless of which opportunity you'd like to apply for, or even other fellowship opportunities that you're thinking about, all this information will be helpful for you. And there's 3 things that we can really recommend. The first is to start early. And so for those of you who said you're like sophomores and juniors, I love that because it means you're thinking ahead. And for those of you who are seniors, it doesn't mean that you're too late, because you can apply this year, you can apply next year, you can apply while you're in grad school. There's plenty of time always. But definitely want to start as early as possible because you'll go through countless rounds of revision on your application materials in the best case scenario. Second is to know your audience. And third, we'll talk about some strategies for obtaining the strongest letters of recommendation. So start early. Know the eligibility requirements, know the deadlines, and definitely make sure that you are thinking about the campus deadlines in addition to those national deadlines if you'd like to be considered for nomination. You know that you're going to have to write multiple drafts of each statement. And so the earlier you start, the more head start you have to complete those materials before submitting them either to the campus nomination committee or to those national deadlines in the case of the Gates Cambridge. And so if you're interested, again, make an appointment with us using Starfish, either in person or virtual appointments. And we'd love to talk with you about your options, regardless of how early or late you feel like you are in the game. The second tip is to know your audience. To have a successful application, your materials need to be tailored to exactly the program that you're applying to. And so you need to know things like, why was the fellowship established? What's the purpose of it? And how does your academic or career plan connect with that purpose? So for example, in the Marshall Scholarship, where they're looking for students with an ambassadorial potential, because they were founded by an act of parliament to promote US-UK relations. And so knowing that that is one of their core motivations of why the program exists in the first place, you should write your materials knowing that that's what they're looking for. So highlighting strengths or experiences that you have that speak directly to ambassadorial potential would be a good idea. And of course, you should try to connect this to your academic plan and your future, why you want to go to graduate school, how the scholarship will help you, and what do you want to do with that graduate degree once you've completed it? What's your vision for how that degree or your research will work into your long-term plans? And hopefully those plans are ones that benefit the world or benefit, at the very least, the fellowship committees themselves. Letters of recommendation. For the Rhodes, remember you need anywhere from 5 to 8, 4 for the Marshall, 2 for the Gates Cambridge. And it's best to start asking early. Prepare a list of your qualities and skills that you want each letter writer to talk about. And so if you know that Marshall cares a lot about ambassadorial quality and your ability to bridge differences and to work through differences, think about a professor or an advisor you have that can best speak to those qualities. And then you can find another recommender to speak towards maybe your academic excellence, and then another to speak towards your leadership. And that way you know that all the bases are covered. It's also a great idea just to float this by your potential recommendation letter writers. Even if it's too early to actually solicit the letter, begin talking to them and just let them know, hey, I think when I graduate, I think I want to apply for the Rhodes, or I want to try to go to Cambridge and apply for the Gates Cambridge. And there's no harm in letting them know those plans early. And in fact, it can probably help put you in a position where they know that they're going to be writing this letter for you and they're going to be looking for specific things that they can write about in those letters. And it can also mean that you can prioritize your relationship with that recommendation letter writer. Even if it's maybe a professor that you had a couple years ago or that you did research with early in your college career but haven't, make sure that you're keeping up with them. You're keeping them in the loop about the things that you're doing. That way they can write as specific a letter as possible when it does come time for those competitions for application. So why apply? We already had that slide with Penn State Marshall scholar Ryan and Ricky talking about the benefit of applying for things like graduate school. Even if it's not successful, you have this bank of materials to go off of when you are applying for other things. It also helps your interview skills because if you're selected as a finalist, there'll be an interview for these opportunities. You can develop your personal statement or your research statements that you're free to use as a base for other opportunities. If you're applying to grad school, you're going to have to write a personal statement, and you'll probably have to submit a writing sample or a research proposal. And if you already have those materials from these applications, then you'll already be ahead of the game. It's also important or helpful because these applications help you develop the ability to speak about yourself with confidence, but not without bragging, because that's a really awkward thing to do. We're not always the most comfortable with talking about ourselves and kind of selling yourself through the application. And that's what they ask you to do. And the more times you do it, the easier it becomes. And so going through these application processes will help you become familiar and comfortable with selling yourself through essays and through applications. So that way it'll only benefit you when you're on the job market or in the grad school application phase. It'll help you develop communication skills and also to identify those strong letters of reference and those writers for those letters. Because even once you've graduated, if you're going to apply for a fellowship, apply for a research grant, apply for graduate school, you're still going to need those reference writers to be able to vouch for you. And the more that you're able to work with them, the more that they're able to see your ambition, to see your plans for the future, they can talk about that in depth in those future letters of recommendation. And those people can often become your network for job opportunities or for other types of academic or even non-academic opportunities. And the more you work with them, the more likely it is that you're the student that they think of when they need to recommend a student for something. So next steps, if you are interested in applying, first, I hope I have made the case to you that there is benefit to applying regardless of the outcome. And so because it can be so beneficial, do it. There's no harm in applying. And so visit those websites, find out more about the type of students they're looking for, read the FAQs, make sure you're eligible, and then start the process. Schedule a meeting with us in the office, begin talking to your advisors, your mentors, your potential rec letter writers, and see what it would be like just to put your hat in the ring, or your name in the hat, yourself in the ring. Put yourself in consideration for these types of opportunities. If you are younger, a sophomore or a freshman, because you can't apply now, what you can do is look for ways to strengthen your application when you do apply. So still go to those foundation websites, go to the Rhodes Trust, go to the Marshall Scholarship website, go to the Gates Cambridge website and read what their scholars are doing, the types of degrees that they're pursuing and projects that they're working on, and see if you can become that type of person. So by the time you are a junior, senior, or a recent grad, you are able to sell yourself to them in a way that you know that they're looking for. And so that probably means building connections with your future letter writers. Maybe that means taking a second or a third elective class with the professor that you really clicked with, or really standing out in a research experience that you're performing with an advisor or a research mentor, or looking for leadership opportunities. Because they value leadership so strongly, look for your areas of interest on campus. It doesn't matter what those areas are, but what does matter is that you're passionate about it, that you're a leader, and that when you're applying, you can show these types of committees that you've had an impact on that student group or that community organization, whatever it is. And in general, focus on quality over quantity. They're not looking for students who can list 10 different student organizations or clubs on their resume. They're looking for students who are well-rounded, but have a depth of experience, who can signal their own leadership, things that they have changed because of their passion. So that way in your application materials, you can signal and show and describe exactly the impact that your leadership had on campus or an organization or whatever. If for whatever reason, or in addition to these awards, you're looking for more opportunities, we highlighted these three because they do fully fund graduate school in the United Kingdom. The Mitchell Scholarship funds graduate study in Ireland and Northern Ireland. And the application process for that, we actually do it alongside the Rhodes and the Marshall, and you'll see that on our URFM website. You might want to consider the Churchill Scholarship, which is for STEM students specifically who want to pursue grad school at Cambridge. The Truman Scholarship, and especially if you're a younger student, who is interested in public service or public leadership, you apply for the Truman Scholarship during your junior year, and it can also fully fund graduate school. The Fulbright program is an opportunity to study, research, or teach English in more than 140 different countries. And that's also a postgraduate program, something you apply for during your senior year or after you've graduated. And the NSF GRFP can also be kind of a similar type of award. This is funding, up to 3 years of funding for graduate school in STEM or select social science fields within the United States. And so it's not one that can send you abroad as easily as these others, but it is, these are all awards that can fund graduate school at some level. And they're all awards that our office helps to support. And so again, if you're interested, we mentor students through each of these award processes. And so speak to us if you're interested, and we can let you know if it's a good fit and the next steps if it is. So we are here to help. We have information sessions and webinars on a lot of these awards like we did today. We have workshops to help with writing and other skills occasionally that we offer to help you be competitive in those application materials. As Tinika mentioned, we offer editing and feedback on those materials. And so you can send us a draft of wherever you're at in that application, and we will get you feedback. And we can do that rounds of feedback as many times as is helpful for you during the application. We also offer just mentorship. So if you're not ready to apply, you don't have application materials to send in, but you want to talk through your plans, talk through what a good opportunity might be for you down the line, meet with us, and we'd love to help identify opportunities that are good fits for you and help you decide kind of maybe some of the choices that you should make down the road if you want to be competitive for these types of opportunities. And we do that through individual advising appointments. And, as many appointments as is helpful for you, we are happy to offer. You can connect with us in a few different ways. So for those of you at University Park, we're located in the Buki building, 321 Buki. We have those events, and on our website, we have a calendar of all our events. Some of them do require registration beforehand, and you can find all those on the websites. Those are the kind of webinars and workshops that I was referring to. We also have a newsletter. This only goes out once a month. I promise we won't spam your inbox, but the newsletter often has dates and deadline reminders when particular opportunities are open, like the applications are open or when a deadline is approaching. It can be really helpful to get those monthly reminders just to make sure that nothing accidentally falls off the calendar without you noticing it. And lastly, you can make an appointment with us through Starfish or just emailing the office if Starfish isn't working for whatever reason, or if you're an alumna. And we offer both virtual and in-person advising. And so whatever works for you, we want to meet with you. We want to hear your plans, and we want to help you out and achieve, whatever it is you want to achieve. If that's a fellowship, if that is a research opportunity or research funding, let us know. And we love helping you get that. So that is all the information that I have for you for now. So I'm going to stop the screen share and open it up to questions. You've had plenty of time to ruminate, to think about this, maybe visiting some of those websites. So what questions do you all have about Rhodes, Marshall, the Gates Cambridge, or about our office or other types of fellowships? So someone asked in the chat, for third year or junior students, does it make sense to apply the upcoming cycle? Yes. So if you are a junior right now, like you're in the spring semester of your junior year, and you would like to go to Oxford or Trinity University or Cambridge right after your senior year graduation, then you would want to apply during this cycle. So that means if you can, ideally meet that May 10th deadline, and that's during the spring of your junior year. And then you'll work all summer on your application. You'll submit it during the fall semester of your senior year, and then you'll find out in the spring or later that fall if you get the opportunity or not. But if you're not sure about that, you want some time, you want a gap year, remember you can always apply as a senior, as during your gap year, or even as an early graduate student. Someone else asks if the Zoom recording will be accessible at some point, and I don't have a firm answer for you, but I believe the answer is yes. We will make the Zoom recording accessible. And if you want to email me, I'll drop my email in the chat. I'm also happy to send you all the slides deck so that you can have this information. But most of the information can also be found on our website, which is urfm.psu.edu. So I put that website in my email in the chat, and I'm happy to send you the slides.